The night was unusually warm, the air thick with the scent of wet earth after an early summer rain. Lila had been told all her life never to wander too far from the village paths, yet here she was, her lantern swaying in hand as she stepped deeper into the forest. Curiosity was stronger than fear, and tonight something called to her a faint glow she had seen earlier near the hills. The villagers whispered of the crystal cave, a hidden place said to shimmer with light not of this world. Some claimed it was cursed. Others spoke of lovers who entered and never wished to return. No one had shown her the way, but her own eyes had caught the faint, pulsing shine through the trees. It had felt inviting. Her boots slid against damp moss, and the sound of rushing water grew louder. At last, she found the cave's mouth, half hidden behind a curtain of vines. A soft bluish glow spilled out, brighter than the moonlight. Lila's breath caught in her throat. She parted the vines and stepped inside. The air within was cooler, charged with some unseen energy. Crystals jutted out from the stone walls in every direction, shimmering as though alive. Some were tall as her shoulders, others clustered like frozen fire. The glow came from them soft waves of light that shifted in color, now deep blue, now violet, now the tender blush of rose. It was beautiful, and strangely intimate, as though the cave itself were breathing. Her fingers brushed one of the crystals. A warmth pulsed through her hand and up her arm. She gasped, dropping her lantern. It clattered but did not break, its light now unnecessary among the glowing stones. She lifted her palm to see faint sparks dancing across her skin. The touch had not burned, it had awakened. Not many dare to come here, a low voice spoke from deeper inside. Lila spun around, heart racing. From the shadows stepped a man. His frame was tall, his clothes dark, his eyes reflecting the glow like polished silver. She had not heard him approach. His presence filled the cave as though he belonged to it. "Who are you?" she demanded, though her voice trembled more than she wished. "A wanderer, like you," he said with a small smile. "But unlike you, I've been here before." He moved closer, and she saw his features more clearly. Strong jaw, lips curved in calm amusement, hair falling in waves around his face. His gaze lingered on her, sharp yet not unkind. The cave's light made his skin look sculpted, otherworldly. "Is this cave cursed?" she asked, struggling to hold his gaze. "That depends on what you fear," he replied. "It does not harm those who enter with open hearts. But it does awaken what lies hidden inside." His words pressed against her chest like a secret. She should have been frightened, but something about him, about the cave itself, kept her rooted in place. The crystals pulsed brighter as he drew near, casting hues of crimson and gold across his face. The glow seemed to respond to him, or perhaps to both of them together. "You touched the stone, didn't you?" he asked softly. "You felt it?" Lila nodded, unable to lie. "Then you already know," he murmured. "This place draws out desire. Not just the mind's longing, but the body's truth." Her lips parted, but no words came. Heat rose in her cheeks, not from shame, but from the sudden awareness of her own heartbeat, of her own skin alive under the cave's glow. She noticed the way his eyes lingered on her mouth, then on the soft line of her throat. He stepped closer still, until she felt the warmth of his presence. The silence between them thickened. Her lantern lay forgotten at her feet, but the light was more than enough, the shimmer of crystals, the silver fire of his gaze. She swallowed hard, the sound echoing too loud in the cave. "Why are you here?" she asked, her voice a whisper. "To find what the cave wishes to show me," he said simply. His hand lifted, stopping just short of touching her cheek. He did not close the gap, but the nearness made her shiver. The cave pulsed again, bright as a heartbeat. Lila felt her breath catch, the air thick with something she had no name for. She had stepped inside seeking wonder, but what she had found was far more dangerous and far more tempting. The man's eyes searched hers, as if waiting for permission to close the distance. And though no word left her lips, her silence carried an answer of its own. The cave hummed around them, soft waves of color spreading through the crystals as though they were alive. Lila stood frozen, her chest rising and falling too quickly, her eyes locked on the man who had stepped from the shadows. His hand still hovered just a breath away from her cheek, not touching, yet making her skin burn with anticipation. "You shouldn't be here," she whispered, though the words lacked conviction. "Neither should you," he replied, voice low, smooth, almost teasing. "But here we are." His silver eyes caught the glow of the crystals, shifting from cold to warm in an instant. The cave responded to his nearness, the light deepening into shades of crimson, brushing against her like a caress. It was as if the walls themselves wished for them to close the gap. Lila's heart pounded. She should turn and run back to the village, yet her feet refused to move. Instead, she felt herself leaning the smallest bit closer, betraying her own body's will. "You said this cave awakens desire," she murmured. "But what if someone doesn't want that?" The man's lips curved. "Then the cave shows them what they truly fear." "And if they do want it?" she asked before she could stop herself. His gaze deepened, and for a moment, he seemed to see straight through her. He finally lowered his hand, not to retreat, but to let his fingers brush lightly along her jaw. The touch was gentle, yet it sent sparks racing down her spine. "Then the cave gives them what they crave," he said. The air thickened. Lila's breath caught at the intimacy of his words, at the softness of his touch. She could feel the pulse of the crystal behind her, beating in rhythm with her own racing heart. The glow painted his features with firelight, making him look both dangerous and irresistible. "Why are you really here?" she asked, her voice shaking. His fingers trailed down from her jaw to her neck, pausing where her pulse raced. "Because the cave doesn't call to everyone. Only to those it chooses. Tonight, it called you. And it called me." His closeness was overwhelming. She could smell him now, earth, rain, and something wild beneath it all. Her lips parted, as though her body longed to speak a truth she didn't yet understand. She drew back half a step, trying to collect herself, but the crystal wall behind her seemed to pulse, urging her forward again. "You speak as though this place is alive." "Alive," he echoed, his eyes never leaving hers. "And hungry." The word sent a shiver through her. Hungry for what? She wanted to ask, but her voice failed her. Her body already knew the answer. His hand moved again, this time brushing her arm. Even through the fabric of her sleeve, the warmth of his touch seeped in, awakening something that had been sleeping inside her. He did not push her, did not demand more, yet his nearness alone unraveled her resolve. "Do you feel it?" he asked softly. "Yes," she admitted, the word trembling out of her. The cave pulsed brighter, the crystals glowing with soft waves of red and violet, wrapping them in a cocoon of light. Her breath came faster, and when she looked into his eyes, she saw no mockery there, only a mirror of her own rising desire. "You're not afraid," he said, his thumb brushing over the back of her hand now. "I should be," she whispered. "Then why aren't you?" Lila had no answer. Her chest ached with confusion, with longing, with a hunger she had never allowed herself to name. The cave was stripping her bare, not her body but her soul, exposing what lay hidden beneath the surface. For a moment, silence fell. Only the soft hum of the crystals filled the space, like a heartbeat pressing closer, closer. His hand lingered against hers, the simple touch more powerful than any embrace she had ever known. Finally, he leaned close enough that his breath brushed her ear. His voice was almost a growl, yet gentle enough to stir every nerve in her body. "The cave doesn't lie, Lila." Her name on his lips made her knees weaken. He stepped back then, just enough to make her ache with the loss of his warmth. His eyes lingered, questioning, testing her resolve. "You can leave," he said quietly. "No one will stop you. But if you stay, the cave will show you more." The crystals flickered as though awaiting her decision. The glow pressed against her like a warm tide, urging her deeper, urging her closer to him. Lila's chest rose with a shaky breath. She had come seeking only wonder. But now she stood at the edge of something far more dangerous, something her body craved even as her mind screamed for caution. And she knew, she would not leave. The glow around them deepened as though the cave itself had heard her decision. Crimson light shimmered across the walls, violet streaks chasing it like fire dancing in the dark. Lila stood with her back to the crystal wall, her pulse racing, her breath uneven. She had said nothing, yet the stranger already knew she wasn't leaving. He stepped closer, his boots silent on the stone. "The cave responds to choice," he murmured. "Now it knows yours." Before she could ask what he meant, the crystals at her back warmed. A hum vibrated through the stone, sending a tremor up her spine. She gasped, pressing her hand against the wall, but the sensation only spread, wrapping her body in tingling heat. It was as though invisible hands traced along her skin, awakening every nerve. She turned toward him, eyes wide. "It's doing something." His expression was calm, yet there was hunger in his eyes. "It amplifies what you feel. Whatever you try to hide, it will bring forward. Whatever you crave, it will not let you deny." His words struck her deeper than the crystal's pulse. She wanted to protest, to say she wasn't craving anything, but the lie stuck in her throat. Her body betrayed her, the racing of her heart, the warmth flooding her skin, the way her gaze lingered on his mouth. The stranger reached out, brushing a strand of damp hair from her face. His fingers lingered against her temple, sliding down to her cheek. The touch was electric, sparking against the crystal's hum. Lila's lips parted, a soft sound escaping before she could stop it. The crystals around them pulsed brighter, their glow washing the cave in shades of deep rose. The air thickened, heavy, charged, making it hard to breathe. She felt it pressing against her chest, urging her closer to him, closer until nothing separated them. "You feel it too," he said softly, his forehead nearly touching hers. "Yes," she admitted, her voice barely audible. The single word changed everything. His hand slid to the back of her neck, firm but gentle, drawing her toward him. Their breaths mingled, hot against each other's lips. For a heartbeat, he paused, giving her a chance to retreat. But Lila didn't move. She couldn't. The first brush of his mouth against hers was soft, tentative. But the cave erupted in light, a burst of violet fire that bathed them both. The kiss deepened instantly, his lips firm, hungry, his hand tightening against her neck. Lila clung to his sleeve, her body igniting as though the cave itself poured desire into her veins. She had never been kissed like this before, never with such intensity, never with such raw need. The crystal's hum synced with her racing heart, every beat louder, hotter, pulling her deeper into him. When he finally pulled back, her breath came ragged, her lips tingling. She tried to speak, but the words tangled in her throat. He looked at her with eyes aflame, his composure slipping. The cave, it doesn't let us hide. You feel it, don't you? The truth of what you want. Her chest rose and fell, her body trembling with the ache of wanting more. I don't understand it. You don't need to understand, he murmured, his thumb brushing her lower lip. You only need to choose. The cave pulsed again, the light surging through the crystals until the entire chamber glowed like a heart of fire. The hum grew louder, vibrating through the stone, through their bodies, pressing them closer together as though the cave itself demanded it. Lila's resistance crumbled. She leaned into him, her hands finding his chest, feeling the heat of him through the fabric. His heartbeat thundered beneath her touch, strong, unyielding, and for a moment, she thought it matched the rhythm of the cave itself. Their mouths met again, this time fiercer, deeper. His arms wrapped around her, pulling her flush against him, and the world outside the cave vanished. There was only the glow, the heat, the wild surge of desire that neither of them could stop. When they finally broke apart, her lips swollen and her body trembling, Lila pressed her forehead against his chest, gasping for breath. The cave dimmed slightly, its glow softening as though satisfied for now. He tilted her chin up, his eyes burning into hers. This is only the beginning. And though a part of her still whispered caution, the louder truth was undeniable. She didn't want to leave. Not now. Not ever. The cave's light ebbed and swelled like a living tide, pulsing with every heartbeat they shared. Lila's lips still burned from his kiss, her skin alive with heat that refused to fade. The stranger's arms remained firm around her, his chest rising and falling against hers. She wanted to pull away, to breathe, to think, but the cave wouldn't let her. Its glow pressed down like a weight, whispering that there was no need for control, no need for restraint. Her fingers curled tighter against him, clinging as though the stone floor beneath them had vanished. She could hear her own breath shaky, needy, filling the silence between them. His gaze locked on hers, silver eyes lit by crimson light, and the hunger she saw there made her tremble. You feel it, he said, voice husky now, stripped of calm. The cave won't stop until you stop resisting. I don't want to resist, she confessed, her words slipping out before she could stop them. The glow flared, as though the cave itself approved. His hand slid to the small of her back, pressing her closer. The warmth of his body seeped through her clothes, deeper than heat, into her bones. His mouth found hers again, this time without hesitation, and the kiss was fierce, urgent, consuming. She parted for him instinctively, every nerve lit with fire. The crystals above them brightened into a storm of colors: violet, rose, gold, flashing with each shudder of breath. The hum in the air grew louder, vibrating through the ground, through the walls, through their bodies, until it was impossible to tell where she ended and he began. Lila's hands roamed, exploring the shape of his shoulders, the strength of his chest, as though guided not by thought but by need. He responded in kind, his fingers trailing her sides, her waist, mapping her as if he had been waiting for this moment all his life. Each touch left sparks in its wake, each caress pulling a soft gasp from her lips. The cave pulsed faster, echoing their rhythm. The glow pressed in tighter, bathing them in a heat that felt almost unbearable, yet she wanted more, craved more. She broke the kiss only to breathe, her forehead against his, their breaths mingling. What "What is happening to us?" she asked, her voice unsteady. His hand brushed her cheek, tender despite the storm raging around them. "The cave awakens what we bury. It strips us of denial. You wanted this, and so did I." Her heart stuttered at the honesty. She could not deny it, not with her body pressed against his, not with the ache building inside her. The cave had unwrapped every secret she thought she kept locked away, and all that was left was raw, unshakable desire. The hum grew deeper, vibrating through her chest. She felt it in her legs, her arms, even her lips. It urged her to give in completely, to surrender not only to the stranger but to herself. And she did. Her lips claimed his again, harder this time, fierce and desperate. He answered with equal fire, his grip firm as though he feared she might disappear. They moved together as though the cave itself guided them, every crystal flaring brighter with each touch, each breathless sound that escaped between kisses. The air grew hot, thick, shimmering with light. Shadows danced across the walls like living shapes, feeding on their passion. The cave was no longer just a place, it was alive, responding to every sigh, every shiver, every unspoken craving. When his mouth left hers, it trailed lower, brushing her jaw, the hollow of her throat. Lila tilted her head back, eyes closed, a soft cry escaping her lips. Her hands tangled in his hair, urging him closer, unwilling to let the moment slip. The glow bathed them in molten colors, wrapping them in warmth so intense it blurred the world beyond the cave. There was no village, no rules, no whispers of fear. There was only the man before her, the heat of his touch, and the truth the cave demanded she embrace. Her voice was shaky, but clear as she whispered, "Don't stop." He froze for half a heartbeat, his breath ragged, his restraint cracking. Then his lips curved against her skin, a smile edged with hunger. "I wasn't planning to." The crystals thundered with light, brighter than before, the cave roaring with approval as if it too shared in their surrender. Lila no longer fought the magic. She welcomed it. The cave had become a living fire around them, each crystal igniting in response to their heated movements. Lila's skin burned where his hands grazed her, and every touch left trails of electric fire dancing beneath her flesh. She had never known desire like this, raw and insistent, a storm that refused to be denied. The stranger's lips traced her neck, down to the hollow above her collarbone. Each kiss left her trembling, every brush of his fingers against her waist igniting a pulse that throbbed through her entire body. The glow of the crystals followed them, light flaring with every sigh and shiver. The cave had ceased to be just stone, it was a partner in their passion, urging them on, drawing them deeper into one another. "You're mine," he whispered, his lips brushing her ear. The words were not possessive, they were a declaration, heavy with desire, impossible to resist. Lila's fingers clutched his shoulders, pulling him closer, pressing against the warmth of him. "And you're mine," she breathed, the admission shaking free a part of her she had never allowed herself to feel before. The crystals around them flared, bathing their bodies in molten violet light. The hum of the cave had grown into a steady pulse, echoing through their veins, synchronizing with their heartbeats. Every nerve in Lila's body screamed for more, for deeper contact, for complete surrender. His hands moved with deliberate care, exploring her curves, mapping her with fingers that knew exactly how to provoke every gasp, every soft moan from her lips. The heat of the cave seemed to enter her bones, setting her on fire in a way that was both terrifying and irresistible. Lila's head fell back against his shoulder as he kissed her jaw, his chest pressing her into the curve of his body. The warmth between them was no longer just from desire, it was as though the cave itself had infused them with its power, making every touch more intense, every sensation magnified. "I've never," she gasped, voice trembling, "I've never felt like this before." "You don't need to understand it," he murmured, his lips grazing hers again. "You only need to feel it. Let it consume you." And she did. Their movements became urgent, impatient, as if the crystals themselves demanded that no moment be wasted. Lila's hands tangled in his hair, drawing him closer, pressing her body against his in a rhythm dictated not by thought but by instinct. Each touch, each gasp, each fleeting brush of skin against skin was amplified by the cave's magic, burning hotter, faster, until resistance was impossible. He whispered her name against her lips, and the sound sent shivers cascading through her. The glow of the crystals reflected in their eyes, making them look ethereal, untouchable, as though they were no longer mere humans but creatures born of light and fire. Lila arched into him, lips seeking, hands roaming, every inch of her awake with desire. She could feel the heat building inside her, a swelling tide that the cave encouraged, urging them onward with every flash of light. The stranger responded with equal intensity, his body molding against hers, moving with a precision that made her breathless. Each kiss, each press of lips and hands, was a promise and a surrender, a declaration that neither would hold back. The crystals pulsed faster, casting flickering shadows that danced across their entwined forms. The cave was no longer just a witness, it was a participant, feeding on their desire, magnifying it, binding them together with invisible threads of heat and light. When he finally pulled back, if only for a moment, their foreheads pressed together, breaths mingling, Lila's body quivering with need. "Do you feel it?" he asked, voice hoarse with shared hunger. "Yes," she whispered, chest heaving. "Everything. I feel everything." His lips found hers again, the kiss deeper, fiercer, and the crystals around them flared as though celebrating the fire they had sparked. The cave shivered with their passion, the glow enveloping them completely, until the world beyond the stone walls had ceased to exist. In that moment, Lila knew that nothing would ever be the same. Desire had claimed them, the cave had claimed them, and there was no turning back. The glow of the crystals had dimmed slightly, softening from the furious fire of moments before into a gentle, warm luminescence. Lila lay against the stranger's chest, her hair spilling over his shoulder, her body still trembling from the storm of desire they had unleashed. The cave hummed around them, but it no longer pressed with urgency, it seemed to breathe with them, a calm echo of their shared passion. "I've never felt anything like that," Lila whispered, her voice raw, half laughter, half awe. She traced the line of his jaw with her fingers, feeling the steady pulse beneath his skin. "I know," he murmured, his thumb brushing her temple. "Neither have I. Not like this." They lay in silence for a moment, hearts beating in tandem, bodies still pressed together. The cave was a cocoon, shielding them from the world outside, from rules, from fear. Only the warmth between them mattered, the ache, the desire, the closeness that neither wanted to break. "You're different," she admitted, voice barely audible. "Not like anyone I've ever met. Not just because of what happened, but everything about you." He chuckled softly, a sound that rumbled through her chest like low thunder. "You're the same," he said. "Different. And that's why this cave brought us together. It only chooses people who can match its fire, who won't hide from it." Lila tilted her head, studying him. His eyes, still reflecting the glow of the crystals, held something more than desire. There was a vulnerability there too, a trust that he was letting her see. Her heart stirred at the thought. "You trust me," she said quietly. "I do," he replied, voice low. "I've never trusted anyone like this before. But here, now, I do." Her chest tightened. The intensity of their earlier passion was still humming in her veins, but something softer, deeper, had begun to bloom, a connection that went beyond lust, beyond the crystal's magic. She felt it in the gentle brush of his fingers, the way his eyes lingered on hers, the subtle warmth of his body cradling hers. The cave seemed to recognize it too. The crystals shifted colors, soft blues and golds dancing across the walls, casting them in a glow that felt protective rather than provocative. Lila's fingers tangled in his hair again, pulling him close, and he pressed his lips to her temple, a soft, lingering kiss that left her shivering. "I want to know you," she admitted, her voice trembling. "Not just like this, but everything. Who you are, what brought you here." He brushed her hair back, his thumb tracing her cheekbone. "There are stories, secrets, things I've hidden from the world. But with you, I want to share them all. If you'll let me." She nodded, a soft smile touching her lips. "I want that too." The cave pulsed around them, not with fiery desire now, but with a gentle rhythm, as though acknowledging the bond forming between them. Lila pressed herself closer, resting her forehead against his chest, listening to his heartbeat. It was steady, grounding, a stark contrast to the chaos of passion they had just shared. And yet, it was just as powerful. "Will this change things?" she asked, voice low. "When we leave, when we're back in the world?" "It might," he admitted, wrapping his arms around her. "But some things are worth the risk. Some connections can't be ignored, no matter where we go." She closed her eyes, letting herself sink into his embrace. The cave had shown them desire, yes, but it had also shown them trust, intimacy, and the spark of something far more enduring. For a long moment, they simply held each other, the world outside forgotten, the fire within them tempered into a steady warmth. The crystals glimmered softly, casting shadows that danced like gentle waves over their entwined forms. And for the first time that night, Lila felt complete. Not just wanted, not just desired, but seen, truly seen. She lifted her head slightly, meeting his gaze. "Stay with me," she whispered. He smiled, a tender curve that made her heart ache. "Always," he promised. The cave pulsed one last time that night, a quiet acknowledgement of the love, desire, and trust that had been forged within its walls. Outside, the world waited. But inside, in the heart of the crystal cave, they had found something eternal. The cave glowed with a soft, golden light, as if it had grown calm after the storm of desire. Yet beneath the warmth, a subtle pulse remained, a heartbeat in sync with their own. Lila and the stranger stood close, bodies still tingling from the flames of passion, but now a deeper connection bound them together. "You feel it too, don't you?" he asked, brushing a strand of hair from her face. "The cave, it's still alive with us." Lila nodded, her lips trembling with a mix of awe and longing. "It's like it wants us to stay. Not just here, but like this, together." His hands traced her arms, lingering at her waist. The warmth of his touch sent shivers down her spine, a reminder that desire had not faded, it had transformed. It was no longer just a firestorm, it was steady, smoldering, and intoxicating. "Then stay," he whispered, leaning closer until their foreheads touched. "Stay with me. Not just tonight, not just here, but wherever life takes us." Her breath caught. She could see the truth in his silver eyes, the promise, the vulnerability, the unspoken longing that matched her own. She wanted it. She wanted him. And more than that, she wanted this moment, this connection, to endure beyond the walls of the cave. I will, she breathed, her fingers curling against the back of his neck. As long as you want me. I want you, he said simply, and the words made her chest ache. Their lips met again, slower this time, savoring every second. The kiss was deep, tender, and yet threaded with the same electricity that had ignited them the first time. The cave's crystals responded, bathing them in soft violet and gold, highlighting the curve of her neck, the line of his jaw, the heat that lingered between them. He lifted her slightly, her legs wrapping around him instinctively. The movement was urgent but careful, a mix of hunger and reverence, as though he worshipped every inch of her. Lila gasped against his lips, the sensation overwhelming in the best possible way. The crystals hummed around them, echoing their rhythm, amplifying the passion that still coursed through their veins. Every touch was electric, every brush of skin an affirmation of desire, trust, and intimacy. "You're incredible," she whispered, her voice trembling, her fingers clutching his shoulders. "I've never, I know," he murmured, cutting her off with a kiss that stole the words from her lips. "Neither have I. But here, now, nothing else matters. Only us." The cave seemed to pulse with approval, the colors shifting, intertwining around their bodies as though the stones themselves were celebrating their surrender to one another. Lila felt the last of her hesitation melt away, replaced by a deep, overwhelming certainty that this him, her, this place was where she belonged. They moved together, bodies perfectly attuned, a dance of fire and light. Lila's breath hitched as he pressed her against the crystal wall, hands tracing the curve of her spine, drawing her impossibly closer. She clung to him, feeling the steady heat of his body, the strength in his arms, the certainty in his embrace. The hum of the cave swelled once more, the crystals casting brilliant reflections that mirrored the intensity of their passion. Yet within that fire, there was tenderness, gentle kisses, whispered names, the unspoken promise that they had found something eternal. Finally, they paused, foreheads together, breaths mingling, hearts racing in perfect unison. Lila traced the line of his jaw with her fingers, a soft smile touching her lips. "We should leave, eventually," she said, though the thought of stepping outside the cave felt impossible. He chuckled softly, brushing her hair back. "Eventually," he agreed. "But for now, we stay. Here, together, in the heart of the cave." She leaned into him, closing her eyes, letting the warmth of his embrace wash over her. Desire had led them here, yes, but love, trust, and connection held them in place now. The cave pulsed quietly, a gentle heartbeat that echoed the bond they had forged, a bond stronger than fire, brighter than crystal, eternal in its glow. And in the heart of the crystal cave, surrounded by the living glow of stone and magic, they surrendered fully to each other, to the moment, and to a passion that would never fade.